I see families thrive when parents are sitting down with their kids and saying, this is who we are as a family, and these are our family goals. This is what we want for you. It is, as you said, a long-term investment. It's like, hey, we want you to become thriving, successful adults 2 decades from now.
Smart money parenting.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Smart Money Parenting. We have a very honored guest today, my friend Connor Boyack with Tuttle Twins, you probably know. And this is going to be a great interview.
I'm excited.
We're going to keep it topical. We're going to talk about family, your family, and some of the biggest issues that are hitting the next generation today.
Yeah.
So your reputation does precede you in a lot of ways. My kids have read all the Tuttle Twins books. They've watched the Tuttle Twins TV. You and I are aligned in a lot of different areas in what we're doing. I think collectively we're helping over 15 million kids, I think, together between the two of us. And so, why don't you just tell them for just a quick, what are the main things on your plate right now? Because you are doing a lot. So talk about that real fast.
So my day job is I run a nonprofit called Libertas Institute. It's a think tank. So we do a lot of legal reform, and a lot of it is helping clear out regulations and roadblocks for entrepreneurs and families and trying to make sure that they can just go pursue their American dream, right? Without a bunch of barriers. So that's kind of how I cut my teeth. Started that about 11 years ago. And along the way, I started realizing that my kids had no clue what I did all day. Like, my oldest, I would come home and I'd say, hey, tell me what you did. And, oh, I played with so-and-so, or I watched a cartoon or whatever. And he would start when he was like 5 to reciprocate the question. Dad, what did you do today? I'm like, how do I talk to my 5-year-old about fighting eminent domain at the city council? Or like, how do I put in words what I do? I didn't want to just say, oh, I type on a computer or I make phone calls. I wanted to teach him the philosophy and the values and the ideas that I believe in, but I had no clue how to do that. Literally went on Amazon, books that teach about free markets for kids or entrepreneurship, and there was nothing. So that's how the Tuttle Twins was born, with my partner Elijah, who's our illustrator. He and I were talking like, what if we did a kid's book? And what if there was something like it? And so that's now a big part of what we do is with the books, with the cartoon that you mentioned, just trying to create a lot more content for families to be able to talk to their kids about very pressing real world issues that families are dealing with, but they often don't have a language with which to communicate about these ideas with their kids. So we're just trying to give them a vocabulary and a shared language to talk about it.
That's brilliant. One of the major things we talk about on this show is money conversations and life conversations. How can we tee up parents to have deeper, better relationships with their kids? And the way to get there is to have intentional conversations about topics that matter in the real world. For sure. And that's exactly what you're doing. So this is awesome, man. I got to talk to you about Tuttle Twins TV for a second.
All right, let's do it.
The show is hilarious. And where, by the way, so how many books have you guys sold now?
So we've sold about 5 million books now. We've got our cartoon, which became the world's topmost crowdfunded kids media project in the world. You're a supporter of it, and your family, as you said, watches it. We're in season 2 production right now. So we've got a whole first season. You can watch it on the Angel app. So if you just go to your app store, search for Angel Studios, you'll find that there. And it's been a blast. That we have literal comedians who are in the writing room, and so they're just like coming up with jokes. I'm responsible for the ideas and making sure that we're teaching the right, ideas and values and saying them the right way. And then they just are cracking jokes the whole time. Oh, what if we said this? And what if we said this? And half of them we can't use, and there's poop jokes all over the place that we have to leave on the writing room floor. But it's a blast, and the final product is just it's a blast. It's so fun to work on. Man,
I love it. Yeah, we were one of the first people in it, and I was like, sign me up, let's go. And I think Daniel Harmon, who helped launch this
the
with
showrunner.
you, we had a great conversation.
Yeah,
and
well, you were instrumental in that. Like, I'll speak to that briefly. Your idea was so helpful for us, where what we're trying to do in the cartoon, as with the books, is teach ideas. We're trying to make something sticky for kids. So you had the awesome idea of like boiling it down to its essence and then making it repeatable, almost like a jingle that you then would repeat 3 times throughout the episode to make it stick. And that's a formula we've stuck with, thanks to you, for the whole show. And it's been working great. These kids are kind of repeating the one-liners. We got bumper stickers. We've got all these things for kids. So thank you. And that was super helpful.
Well, and that's part of this. You and I have worked with millions and millions of kids across our platforms, and you have to get things that work.
Right.
Like, I'm all about knowledge for outcome. Like, that's it. And you have to make something stick. And I think you have nailed that here with the show, the books, the work that you guys are doing in the legal world. Let's talk about your family real quick.
Okay.
How many kiddos?
2 kids. They're
kids. 14
and 12.
You could probably see them if you're watching the video here.
Yeah.
They are not exactly the main characters. They are the characters. They're not. They go through these fun hijinks all the time.
That's right.
How's it been for your kids going through this process with you?
I mean, I love using them as the guinea pigs when I'm kind of beta testing an idea or a story, and they love having that like inside access. I think there's a little element. They don't like to admit this too much, but I think they get some accolades in their little peer groups from, being the kids of the, Tuttle Twins author. And it's just a blast. They love it. They've been in our marketing, like we filmed these marketing videos with them, especially when they were younger, super cute. I had them memorize lines, and it was just these fun videos that have gotten just millions and millions of views. And we're in Lake Tahoe on family vacation a few years ago. And somehow I was talking to my wife about the concept of a royalty. My son says, "What's a royalty?" And I was like, and he's like, "Wait, our videos have sold, millions of books and we don't get a royalty?" I'm like, "Now, son, you learn the art of negotiation."
There you go.
I'm like, next time when you talk to dad about doing a job, establish a contract and figure out what you're going to get out of it. So it's been a blast. They're great at marketing, and it's a fun kind of family involvement that we have.
Do you have a story of like how these books and the stories have impacted your kids and the way that they're learning? Because you started by saying, and we do this all the time, how do we simplify?
Yeah.
The best messages in the world are so easy that a 5-year-old can understand it. And so what's something kind of in your home that you're seeing like firsthand with this?
I think the answer that comes to my mind for that question is I feel that the best learning happens in informal moments. Rather than, "Hey kids, sit down, here's your textbook, here's your curriculum, we're going to force you to memorize all this stuff." It's when you're driving to soccer and you're listening to the radio and someone says something about this war or, inflation or Biden or whatever, and your kid asks you a question, and you have an opportunity right there to kind of tailor the message to what your kids are curious about. So for me with the Tuttle Twins, part of the challenge that I have is this is my whole life now. And it's so pervasive that with my kids, I don't see these little blips because it's just like any given day we're talking about stuff and it's kind of normalized. Where I then get a lot of it is from hearing about other families. So quick story, in one of our books, we talk about how markets work and how the market process allows millions of people all over the world to come together to produce all of these microphones, the camera, our headphones. These are people working together without even really realizing it. And it's a concept, an economic term called spontaneous order, right? That there's no like central planner. This just kind of happens spontaneously. So this dad, he's walking down a grocery store aisle, the potato chip and cookie aisle, and he's got his 9-year-old daughter, and they're walking down the aisle and he turns to talk to her. She's not there. She's back at the potato chips. He walks back and her mouth's open a little bit. And she's kind of got this like awe stare, and dad's like, "What's going on? Why do you stop?" She's like, "I get it now. I understand spontaneous order. There's no one in charge of all these potato chips, and yet there's, wavy and baked and sour cream and there's all these kinds, and there's no one in charge of this. There's no czar of potato chip production. It's just happening, and the dad is like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing," right? Because now like that's planting a seed, and then in a year or 3 years or 10 years, she's going to remember that. He's going to remember that. Anytime some new incident happens or event happens, he can recall that with her and say, "Oh, it's just like the potato chips in the aisle," right? So it's those moments that I love because so many of the families reading our books, it's uncommon for them. It's become kind of common in my family because dad eats and breathes and sleeps this stuff. But I love seeing in other families how these like light bulb moments are happening, and the parents are so appreciative because they want this for their kids. They just don't know how to get the process started. It's like with Gravy Stack and a lot of the stuff you're doing. It's like you got to provide the platform and the vehicle for these parents to do it, and they'll all jump on board and go on the journey with you. But you just got to give them that little bit of support structure.
Yeah, that's it. If you can give tee-ups, these perfect conversation starters for parents, then they'll hit the home run. Yeah. It's just hard for them to get that initial start going. Like, what's the conversations are? What's the topic? What's the scenario, right? This increased cooperation between strangers, right? Spontaneous order, that they'll start to make those links everywhere around them. And so life is your playground. Like, you can make everything an incredible lesson if you look that way and you think that way. And so that's what I've loved about your mission. The way that you're setting this up is having such an impact. And you and I, it's funny we're going to be doing this huge event tonight with a bunch of people, sharing our missions and how they overlap in almost a dozen different ways.
Yeah.
And you don't know when you're working with kids, especially your own kids, you're planting seeds, right? And you won't see the fruits for years, maybe decades to come. And so I think that's what parents need to keep in mind is like, I'm planting seeds, I'm watering the plant, I'm working on it. It's a long-term process. Right. And I think some parents, they sometimes struggle with that. It's like, when are they going to get over this hump? When are they going to overcome this healthy struggle? When are they going to be able to move to the point where we can discuss it and grow, And so they just have to sink in and know that this is what parenting is, right? There's not always the immediate reward, but if you think this way and you build a relationship with your kids this way, where you're actually bringing them in to these stories, into this life, you will see the fruit. So maybe that's the encouragement you need to hear if you're listening to this. You will see the fruit. Just sink in and go through the process and turn everything into a great experience with your kids and learn.
A lot, Scott, of what I'm hearing you say, the word that comes to mind for me is intentionality. A lot of parents, I feel like, are very kind of reactive to the world, right? To culture, social media, whatever their kids are learning at school. And they're just kind of this boat on the ocean with no rudder, no sail. They're just floating, and wherever the current takes them is what they're responding to. And where I see the families thriving the most is when there's a degree of intentionality, when they're saying, hang on, we got to determine what our destination is. We got to determine what the path is to get there. What resources do we need to do it? And we're going to keep that destination in mind. We're going to pivot a lot along the way and figure out how to get there. But I see families thrive when parents are sitting down with their kids and saying, this is who we are as a family, and these are our family goals. This is what we want for you. It is, as you said, a long-term investment. We're not going to go for the short-term dopamine hits or the get an A on this test or, these acute little things that the school system kind of wires in us or optimizes us for. Instead, it's hey, we want you to become thriving, successful adults 2 decades from now, and to be amazing people who create value for others. And that requires us to parent a little bit differently. It requires us to make decisions that maybe your friends' parents aren't making, that we're going to, do things different. But that intentionality, I think, changes everything.
Yeah, 100%, man. We're brothers, I think.
We're singing from the same shade of music, I think, yes. Right?
So I have this question for you I want to hear, because you are at the forefront of a lot of legal change, regulatory change, trying to get to the heart of the matter here. And now I'm jumping in with NEFI and Jumpstart and all the financial standards regulations here in the States as well. And when someone says the parent nightmares or things to be on the lookout for our kids, to build them the right way, the way they need to go, what comes to mind for you for parents? Not a word of caution, but here's some of the best things you can be thinking about for your kids so that they don't fall into these traps.
There was a survey done a few months ago, this massive survey. I think it was 20,000 or 50,000 parents, something huge, nationally representative, statistically significant, and all the rest. And they asked a whole bunch of questions. What stood out to me was they asked about 50 different criteria, and they asked parents, they said, for your K-12 kids, how do you rank all these reasons of why we send our kids to school or why we educate them? So college and career ready, right? Or character values and all the rest. And so these parents ranked them all. They added all of this up. The top 2, I found this so interesting, but maybe not surprising. Number 1 for all these parents was practical skills. They wanted their kids to actually learn how to be able to do stuff, not just theory, not just abstract, but get your hands dirty and figure out how to actually do some of these things. Number 2 was critical thinking.
Wow.
And so when I look at that and I see our school system and the condition in which millions of kids are being taught, I don't think we're optimizing for or really supporting either of those. It's the curriculum is often not hands-on. There's no experiential learning happening. We're not teaching practical skills. We're leaving it up to families. Families are increasingly broken or dysfunctional or busy, and they're expecting the schools to do it, but the schools aren't. So the kid,
they're outsourcing the parenting, hoping that it's working.
100%. And then for the second, critical thinking, I don't think, anyone is going to suggest that the way we teach kids right now is doing really good for that. And so To answer your question, I see those as like the two things that parents are clamoring for the most, and that we're very kind of under-resourced and not really responding to for families. Families want help. They're looking, I mean, gosh, Tuttle Twins exploded during COVID, which, you know, I'd love to like 10x again and like reach even more people. I don't want a pandemic to happen to have to do that.
Right.
But COVID was good to us because so many families, all of a sudden they were all homeschoolers for at least a couple of weeks when the schools shut down. Parents were like, what do I do? How do I teach my kids? And we're like, hey, you know, come
some answers
come
for
check
you.
us out. And book sales exploded. Right when the lockdowns happened, we did this sale called the Lockdown Learning Sale, and it just blew up. I mean, I think I sold like 250,000 books or something just from that sale. It was
Wow.
it was crazy. But it's because parents needed help. They had these acute problems, you know, happening in their lives, and they didn't know what to do about it.
Yep.
And what I'm thinking about more, that I think, you know, what you're doing, Scott, really resonates a lot with, and that is, there are the things that parents know they need help with, like the very kind of acute, like, my kids are home now, I now have to teach them. What the heck do I do, right? The things that that which is seen, right? But what's unseen? What do parents not realize or have in their conscious mind that they do need to be teaching and that they do need to be talking about with their kids? So part of what you do and part of our work, I think, is trying to surface those societally important things, those individually important things that might not be at the forefront of parents' minds, so that they can be more intentional about them.
That's so good, man. We are, you and I are building tool belts for parents, like just tee up moments to plant those seeds and do the practical skills and the critical thinking and taking this stuff at home. And I think the main thing that's happening is that's a reactive answer. COVID hits, what do? We got to react to this. The proactive side is the tough side, right? This is why all the medicine money's made in the reactive, not the preventative, right? And so for parents listening, you know, you need to have this mindset of, I'm a planter, I'm a seed grower, and I'm going to be as proactive and preventative at the same time with my kids as possible. And, you know, we've talked about this over and over. You're a part of Gravy Stack, all these practical skills that we're giving kids, financial competency skills to help them succeed. Kids learn by having fun and through real world experience, right? The fun makes it motivating, and the real world experience gives them capability and confidence to succeed. That's why what we do is fun. It's exciting. It's practical. You know, we talked about these business fairs, these markets that you're launching. We've been doing business fairs. Both of us have been doing these for almost a decade. Yeah. And it's just so practical. A kid shows up with products that they're making. They sell them for profit. They learn how to pitch. They learn what costs and goods and how to market. And they learn these practical skills, and they walk away going, oh, I'm not worried about the future. I can create value. My hands and my feet and my brain can create value for other people. So now I'm not scared. I can do it. And we need to have as many of those moments for kids as possible. And then on the flip side, for the parents, we're giving them tee-ups. We're giving them these simple scenarios, these fun things to do with their kids that are just like, oh, I can do this. I can have these conversations with my kids. And even if I don't know all the answers, I can look to resources that I can learn alongside my kids. With you, with the books, I guarantee you there's millions of parents that are learning alongside their kids.
Okay, it's funny you said that, because as you were talking, I was repeating in my head this question that I want to ask you so that I didn't forget it, and you just gave the answer. But I'll tee you up anyways, because with the Tuttle Twins, this was totally unexpected to me. When we started, I was like, hey, we're making children's books. I now consider them family educational resources, because over the half of the parents that get our books tell us that they're learning things they've never learned before. And so I was going to ask you if with Gravy Stack and, you know, even My First Sale and some of these other things you've been involved in the past, you got Value Creation Kid now, what have you seen from how, because I see these methods as a way to bypass the barrier that many adults throw up for their own self-education and self-empowerment. But when you say, hey, let me help you help your kids, those barriers come down, and then the parents are learning themselves as well. Is that your experience too?
That's the only way it works. It's a Trojan horse. If, like with Gravy Stack, we have 100 financial games, and parents are playing against and with their kids for fun. And as these parents are playing in beta, and we're literally live right now, we're going live, they're like secretly telling us, like, we didn't have any idea what this was about. We had no clue. And so what it does is it removes the shame, it removes the guilt, it removes the fear, it removes the unknown. And with what you and I do, it becomes this way for parents to not have to, be that transparent and vulnerable that they may not know or were never taught these things themselves. And so in a fun way, in a practical way, they're getting the skills along with their kids. And that to us is a win, because those are the two main reasons parents don't talk about money, especially, or practical skills with their kids, is they don't know it themselves and they don't want to look like they don't know it, and even if they do know it and they are successful and they did learn all these things, it's hard to translate it. We surveyed 1,000 parents when we started all this, and the parents said, and this was all across the spectrum, these were wealthy families, successful families, these were low-income families, these were co-parenting families, across the board. They're like, I don't know how to talk about where I got to and how I got here. I don't know how to talk about the lessons in a ways that way. I'm not a teacher. I don't know how to transfer this to my kid. And I don't even know if they're going to listen to me half the time. And so you have to give them the tools to be able to learn alongside their kids. And even if they know them, it's just as fun to play a wants versus needs mini game or talk about the creature from Jekyll Island, right? To understand these core concepts of like free market and inflation and capitalism.
Well, it's interesting with my legal hat on and everything that we do kind of in the political world. I see a lot of problems right now. Not that that's a new thing, but
you and me both, brother.
But there are many right now, like crisis level problems. I mean, just look at our national debt alone, And so I can get pretty pessimistic and wonder, how are we going to solve this? And it's my belief that we're not going to save our country or help the rising generation by battling it out in court and trying to litigate this. I don't think that we can pass some law in Congress that's going to fix this issue. I think that if we're going to save our country and if we're going to save, the rising generation, it's at the dinner table. It's empowering mom and dad to have these types of conversations with their kids, to be learning together, to be developing critical thinking, because I think someone who's entrepreneurial and critical, even if you're not an entrepreneur, you can still, I think and act entrepreneurially. And those who are developing that and critical thinking, I think are going to be far more resistant to all the shenanigans that are happening.
Absolutely.
They're going to have an abundance mindset. They're going to see problems as opportunities. They're going to try and create solutions that dig us out of this mess. But it has to happen by supporting parents in supporting their kids. And so that's why I feel like what we do is so copacetic, because to me, it's the only way to have like Henry David Thoreau has this quote where he says that for every 1,000 hacking at the branches of evil, there's only one striking at the root. And there's so many people that are hacking at the branches of all the problems that we're talking about, the financial illiteracy and ignorance and debt and dependence and everything else. There's a lot of good efforts and sincere efforts, but so many of them are superficial and not really leading to the reform that we need. We have to strike at the root, and I see you as a fellow root striker.
Absolutely, man. Wow. I don't even know how to spell copacetic, but that is absolutely profound. And I think you're right. I think it takes certain people to stand up, and we're building things from the ground up at the root level so that it can help people.
Yeah.
And it really makes a transformation when you get at the root. So I think it's done at the dinner table. You're exactly right. I think it's done with the bedtime stories.
Yeah.
How many people, that's the bedtime story for them, for Tuttle Twins. But this unbelievable. I am behind what you're doing 100%.
Thank you.
Can't tell you how many people I've told, and mass emails and posts, and people are like, man, I wish my kids got X. You and I are solving the answer to X right now. Yeah. And I appreciate everything you do. I got your back, and I know you got mine. Thanks for being on the show.
Of course.
And thank you all to listen. If this episode means anything to you, share it with somebody else. Share it with another family that needs it. Tuttle Twins, how many books are out right now?
Gosh, we got 13 books for like elementary school kids. We've got 6 for toddlers. We've got, like a dozen for teenagers. So we kind of run the whole age range. We got like over 24 books total now.
And a new U.S. history book telling
coming out,
the truth on a lot of this stuff,
yep.
Which I love. Our kids have been reading it. Volume 2 coming out soon.
Yep.
Okay, so if you're listening, you can get these books as one-offs in bundles. Just go where? How do they find you?
TuttleTwins.com. Tuttle, TuttleTwins.com.
There you go. And then get the Angel app. It's the same app that The Chosen's on.
That's right.
And you guys can watch Tuttle Twins on the Angel app, Tuttle Twins TV. It's hilarious for the whole family. I will say that. We struggle when we go to Netflix and watch I don't know, cocoa banana stuff. And I'm like, no way, man. So when we watch Tuttle Twins, it's just hilarious and funny, and it's the perfect thing for the whole family. So thanks for being on the show, man.
Thank you, Scott.
And thank you guys for listening, watching, viewing, and subscribing. We will see you guys next time. Take care.
It takes more than money if you want to succeed. You gotta know what to do with it. You gotta take the lead. You gotta give them confidence. You gotta make them smart. If your kids are gonna thrive, now's the time to start. Smart